It was really an interesting moment on Monday when Kearis Jackson was talking with reporters, and he had this to say about his time at Georgia and so forth. Now, let's keep in mind, Kearis Jackson, of course, went to Peach and then Peach County, and then went up to Georgia. I remember watching him play at Peach. It was quite an interesting thing. It's a rather long quote, but I do want to put I want to make sure that I say this real quick about what he's talking about having more than one tight end on the field at any one given time. And this is what Kira said to reporters. He said, "If something's working, why stop it? That's my mindset. I'm here to win games. I'm not here to have 1,000 yards, 20 touchdowns. I know I wanted to come in for that. I would have, if excuse me, he says, I knew if I wanted to come in for that, I would have gone somewhere else. But I'm trying to win, put a championship years on our walls, and trying to be a national champion, SEC champion. So whatever Coach Monken feels like is giving us the best position to win, I'm down for that." And just this year so far, what we've seen is the elevation of multiple players at any particular game. It doesn't mean just because you didn't have a breakout game at one moment that you're not going to have one soon thereafter. I mean, Bowers, McConkey, Washington, McIntosh, Jackson, and Rosemary Jack Saint are Georgia's leading six receivers. Kearis has 18 receptions for 246 yards. He has a long of 30. He's averaging about 25 yards a game, okay? Now, we've not seen a lot of A.D. Mitchell this year, but the bulk of these receivers have played in every single game, and a slew of them have over 10 catches, and they're not all receivers. Edwards, Blaylock, Bell, Rosemary Jack Saint, Jackson, McIntosh, Darnell, Ladd McConkey, and Brock Bowers all have not fewer than 10 receptions. That means on average they're catching one ball a game. These guys don't care. I mean, none of these guys are going to finish the regular season with 1,000 yards receiving. I mean, Brock Bowers would have to go off in back-to-back games. He'd have to have almost 400 yards of receptions. It's just not going to happen. So Bowers has 615, Ladd has 578, Darnell with almost 400, Kenny with 322, Kearis with 246, 241 for Marcus Rosemary Jack Saint, then Dylan Bell with 151, Blaylock with 146. Edwards has 76, AD has 69, just in a matter of 3 games. Jackson Meeks has 6 receptions for 65 yards. So this has been split out a long way. I mean, your two typical receivers for this team have been Bowers at 61 yards a game and McConkey at not quite 60, about 58. But that's kind of, not the point, I guess you could say. The point is that Kearis is saying, hey, look, I don't care. I just want to win. And it doesn't matter to me how we win, just that I win. And he goes on to say this. He said, if I was a defensive coordinator, I'd be stressed out having to figure out how I can stop almost 6 offensive linemen in with Darnell. And you have Brock Bowers at the same time who's able to block and run routes. They're much bigger than he's talking about himself, but it's a weapon we can always use. It's hard to stop that. I just want to say this real quick about Darnell Washington, okay? I've played with a lot of people through the years, football, but more basketball. Darnell looks like like a really big basketball guy that, imagine Sean Kemp played football. That's basically what it's like watching Darnell play on this team. It is amazing. Fast, just massive. Fast is maybe the wrong word, but deceptively quick that Darnell. And the point is, if you watch this team, speaking of Darnell, like he seems to be the first person to run and celebrate with Brock Bowers. We've got images of it on Dog Post. Um, all these guys are down to win, and that leads to moments like this. Now, look, Kelee Ringo had a big 2021. He was one of the guys that was important. Kearis Jackson really had a great 2020. And when you think about what he did against Auburn and all those plays that he made in 2020, and then you kind of, he was dealing with some injuries, and all of a sudden, here he comes back against Florida and makes just an amazing catch. Um, but the thing that I've learned in time is that you never know when any of these particular offensive guys is going to get going. It could be Stetson, it could be Lab McConkey, it could be Darnell. Um, Here's Kearis. Here, the image is not huge of Kearis. That's it's just what it is. But there's so many different ways for everyone to hurt you. We've not seen Arian Smith a ton this season, but when we've seen him, I mean, he's making big plays. This team is a team, and that's the part to me that just because you're stopping Brock Bowers doesn't mean that you're stopping this team. That's the part to me that is the trickiest thing for a defense to deal with is a bunch of little you know Star Wars rebel jets where there's no easy way to get a hold of all of them, right? I mean, you gotta stop all of them, or one of them will explode on you and kill the Death Star, right? That's the problem with this Georgia team is if Stetson's not throwing effectively, for the most part, they can just go to the run. If the run is working, that makes everything even harder for the other team. But Kearis also goes on to say NFL teams aren't only looking at what you can do with the balls in your hands. They're looking at what you do outside with the ball, not in your hands. So he's talking about blocking here. He says, I can help guys, I can help have guys in the right position. He also talks about being a vocal leader. There's not been a lot of people like Kearis Jackson uh, that are in college football, generally speaking. But although I knew him better, I think the direct comparison is with Thomas Brown, who was at Georgia from '04 to '07, and is with the Rams now. Just won a Super Bowl as I think the offensive coordinator. Someone could correct me, but he's team big team little me. He goes on to say you can get the football 100 times in the game and still lose. So what's that help you with? So long as we keep winning, I'm excited. I'm not tripping over any targets being thrown my way. I'm just excited to be a part of something great. And this is a great Georgia team right now. They are really hard to deal with for the opposition. I mean, the "but what about Missouri" comments have started to fade away. To me, that Missouri game was about toughness mentally, and this is from my perspective, and I don't see inside of the program. I see a lot of behind the scenes stuff for sure. But when I was coming off the field against State, that was one of the times where you could see everybody through a kind of a frosted glass. That's where Georgia was coming out of it's a strange setup at Mississippi State, but you could see as they were going in, you could see sort of through the glass. This is a tight team. Like they are connected. I don't think that's just some line. They are legitimately connected and in tune with one another. I think you see that when you see Darnell partying every time someone scores, whether it's Ladd or Brock. I mean, Darnell scored the other day, and he was happier. I'm just gonna. I don't want to project on Darnell. He can speak for himself when he speaks, but it sure seemed like he was way more excited when he helped Ladd score and when he was celebrating with Brock. And now that's just me on the field. I don't know if TV shows that or not. Now Stetson is a slower celebrator. Stetson just doesn't get in there and party. I mean, one thing for him is he's got immediate responsibility right after they score, which is to be the holder. So Stetson doesn't sprint to the end zone all the time. Sometimes he's chilling out with Broderick Jones. I mean, like Broderick Jones and Stetson seem to have like a post touchdown deal. Watch the celebrations when Georgia scores. That's an important part of is it individualized, or is it a team party? And often it's the group, right? I mean, and you cannot individually celebrate in college football. I understand that, but I'm just saying, does it organically become the group? And that's what Kearis is talking about. These guys are not overwhelmingly concerned about any one thing. They're worried about winning. They're not worried about yards.